to me, if you're at the top of the masthead and you have so much time in spring training, then that's where the owner says, this is how important it is to me, right? Not, oh shit, the dam broke. Now let me be the guy to retroactively come and fix it. And I don't begrudge Rafi Devers completely from the, hey, why are you jacking me around standpoint? If you want me to do one thing or do something else, then fine. So I understand Devers kind of throwing the hand in the air. I guess what I don't understand is, why did it take so long for the owner to say to this particular player, hey, we've had a, that's it. Well, I think the part of it is that John Henry and Rafi Devers have no relationship. So where you would normally, like if this were David Ortiz, John Henry would have been roaming around in the clubhouse down upon Mountain High trying to figure out what's going on. There hasn't been any of that relationship development the way John Henry did in the previous decade.
Well, right. Now, more like previous quarter century. It's a long time ago. But what I'll say about John Henry, right? He's had some success in his business career, right? He's a soft-spoken guy, whether you like John Henry or not. But however, the communication was mishandled, right? And certainly my guess is Craig Breslow maybe doesn't always press the right personal buttons, right? And I believe that Alex Cora was maybe in a position where he couldn't necessarily drive the bus in this situation. So John Henry coming down to me, sitting down, and I believe that he probably approached it in a very kind, soft-spoken, diplomatic, loving manner, and probably was smart enough to talk to Rafael Devers in a way where he really felt the love. I really do believe that. I believe that John Henry thought he was uniquely positioned to be the one to come down and do this. And Gresh, I'll be honest with you, I haven't read a bunch about this because I don't give a shit enough to read about what others' opinions of this were. I think there are a lot of things about John Henry that in a room can probably translate very well. And I bet he delivered some news Rafi didn't want to hear, but I bet it was accompanied by some good things and maybe delivered in maybe a perfect manner. Just one's opinion.
Well, hopefully he knows Spanish to do that.
Well,
and I'm not joking, but I mean, but seriously, do you think John Henry walked in that room and said, "Como te llamas?" That's another part of this too, is because what you say, John Henry has that ability. But if you're doing it through an interpreter, how in the world is any messaging getting home?
I disagree.
This is what
I disagree. It's a necessary evil. We don't know what the embrace was like when he first saw him and how that made Rafi feel. You know, Cody put in the chat, he's just a man-child, I think, talking about Rafi, right? Yeah. I wouldn't utter those words, but that makes sense. And I actually believe, look, I ran a business for a while. I had a lot of different employees, a lot of different personalities, and you massage them each differently. And I just get this sense that John Henry pushed the right buttons in that spot. And I'm positive. My brother thinks I look angry. Maybe I look angry, but I'm really positive whether it comes to Jason Tatum, Rafael Devers.
I love it how that text has completely slowed you down. When you were like, "Oh, my brother thinks I look angry," and then
he texted me a while ago. He texts me that every week, and I think maybe it's because the lights are a little bit bright. But I'm passionate and interested, and so maybe I actively listen with an angry face, but he tells me that all the time. But yeah, what do you want? You know, I got a sign in the other room that says hippies use the back door. You know, I'm a hippie at heart. But what do you think about Bregman? I'm telling you that I would be really trying to throw some money his way right now and make sure we don't need to have those conversations at the end of a missed postseason year.
Yeah, I think the Red Sox tried to, and that's why they're in this year-to-year deal with him. Because they just, again, they just want to, the one thing about John Henry and how he's made a part of his money that doesn't work in sports is the hedge. It ain't a happiness hedge, right? His hedging is more hedge funds. It's different kinds of hedges, right? But there's something about, I can't believe this minute of a thing got to this point, to where the owner had to fly to another city to try to sit down and talk to this guy.
Minute of a thing. What do you mean?
Meaning that these expressions of, hey, Rafi, here's what we would really like you to do, should have been done and handled in spring training. And that's and because you had time to let everybody get up. You do this in late February, everybody has got time to talk through it versus trying to figure it out on the fly in the middle of a season that's just kind of meh.
I agree with you, but I think it's anything but minor when it comes to this type of dollars for your major guy who is being taken off the field, regardless of his defensive performance. So I could argue it should have been handled before spring training, but I do think it's major. And, you've talked about Casas. Dare I say, in a way, could that be addition by subtraction? You're not a fan in terms of the clubhouse, right? So if Rafael Devers could have, but had they had foresight and had these conversations early on, he might have looked at the opportunity to play first base as a positive. So that's all very well taken, but life is tough, right? Ask Bilal Muhammad, ask Jason Tatum. So, this is not as tough as what those guys have dealt with on Saturday and Monday. So let's see if collectively this can work out. Let me ask you a question. Is he actually like taking grounders? Am I seeing fake stuff, or is he really, do you think we're going to see him play at first base this season?
I think the best we're going to get right now is whenever there's the crossover in the NL ballparks, then it becomes David Ortiz. And maybe that's where we end up seeing Devers at first place.
They get
the DH now. You're right. I forgot the DH in the NL. So no, we're never going to see him there. Yeah. Because he's being a bitch. And,
I think we will.
They screwed up. They gave him a contract based on fan reaction, not this is our franchise player.
But I don't think that. I don't look at that as a screw up because of where I think the markets are going to go and because I believe in the stick. How old is he? I mean, he's still growing. I still think as a human. Well, how old is he? Cody, you can put it in the chat, right? Your brain gets fully developed at 25, but I think there's something like I think he's a vulnerable guy. He's 28. I think he's a little bit vulnerable. I think he's a little bit emotionally immature. And those things can change, right? I'm 18 years older than him. I think it's different. So I don't know. I agree with your point about the contract, but I think to a certain extent it was necessary. And he looks good on that lineup card next to Alex Bregman. That's for sure.
Yeah, he does, and we'll see what happens with Bregman. Like you mentioned, the Bregman thing will be interesting. Does he keep rolling? That's the other part of it too, because as it has been noted before by the great Steve Buckley, the Boston baseball experience is something that is completely different. All right, so we know we got about 20 minutes left, and tomorrow is going to be a joyous day.